With Wrath of the Lich King pre-patch out, I've been getting a lot of questions with regards to Enhancement Shamans, so I thought that I would take the time to answer how I play Enhancement Shaman in pre-patch. So let's get right into it. Talents and gear that I use. So I don't use a single set for everything. With dual spec, it's really easy to switch between the different specs that I have, and gear and talent and glyph depending upon what the mob densities are. Let's start with cleave and AoE. On cleave and AoE, I use a Fire Nova build where I get improved Fire Nova with Elemental Fury, and I go down into getting Shamanistic Rage. I do get improved Wind Fury, although when more Death Knights get to level 70, I'm assuming that there's going to be a lot more Death Knights in my groups. So I might be able to take 2 points out of that and put it into Ancestral Knowledge. In terms of the glyphs that I'm currently using, I'm using Glyph of Flame Tongue Weapon and Glyph of Fire Nova. One thing that I should mention is that with these fast clears, typically you're not drinking that much, so mana is an issue. So I'm typically not using Lightning Shields for cleave and AoE because of that fact. So I am not taking improved shields and I'm not taking static shock, and I thought that was worth mentioning. And in terms of how to have better mana with that sort of pulling, use Shamanistic Rage on cooldown, even if you're at 100% mana. Use that in an empty global and it should help a lot with mana. And also don't be afraid to use mana pots. With pre-patch, if you're an engineer, which you probably should be, use the mana injectors because they do give more mana to engineers as well. In terms of the gear that I use for this, I use double flame tongue, as I said, and I am gemming crits, and I'm using essentially as much crit and spell power as I reasonably can get. I don't have a spell power next, so that's why I'm using Choker of Endless Nightmares. But with this gear, or with these talents, you can 100% use a set that is more physically based. If you don't have that spell power gear, it does work great. It's just that the difference in crit, or in your spell crit, between an Ellie set that I was wearing in this is quite substantial. It's almost double the crit. So that is going to... It just doesn't perform as much because you're not getting as many crits off your Fire Novas. But I am getting better damage with improved Fire Nova builds, even with Enhancement gear on, than if I was running Feral Spirits. And the reason why is because improved Fire Nova is just nutty, especially when you combine that with Fire Nova Glyph. Now that we've got what I do for AoE and cleave out of the way, let's take a look at what I do for single target. For single target, this is what I'm currently using for talents. Keep in mind though, it really depends on your gearing situation, how many mana talents you actually need. I have really good gear, so I get a lot of mana back off the Shamanistic Rages. I do use them at full mana, so it kind of is a good thing to do because it keeps you topped off, and you could use Shamanistic Rage more when you use it on cooldown. I use 3 out of 3 improved shields. I also get static shock because I do use lightning shields and go down to feral spirits. I don't use improved wind fury because we have a bunch of owner death knights who are already 70, and I don't get improved fire nova, but I do get 3 out of 3 elemental devastation and 2 out of 3 call of flame. These talents will be in the description, but this is the talents again. In terms of glyphs, I use Flame Tongue Glyph with Fire Nova. It's a toss-up between Wind Fury Glyph and Flame Tongue Glyph with this loadout, but I do have a preference for Flame Tongue. In terms of the imbues that I use main hand Wind Fury and offhand Flame Tongue. And in terms of the gearing philosophy, you want to get to hit an expertise cap. Expertise cap is 26. So you need more or less expertise if you're an orc or a Draenei or another class that does not get that expertise. And in terms of the hit, if you have a Boomkin in your group, you need 165 hit as Alliance and 177 hit rating as Horde. One thing to note is that this one talent in the enhancement tree, dual wield specialization, that increases your melee hit and not your spell hit. This is something that is quite confusing, and it's just something to note. How much hit you need depends upon if you are attacking trash or if you're on bosses. Typically on trash, I drop my hit significantly. I go down to 5% hit on my Alliance Shamans and 6% hit on my Horde, and I stock the fuck out of crit. And the reason why is because of those juicy Fire Novas. Right now, I have a ton of crit with my Fire Nova builds for trash. Um, but on boss encounters, you want to have a bit more hit. To be spell hit capped, you want 17% hit, all things included. So if you don't have a Boomkin or Shadow Priest in the group, do you need 17% hit on Horde? However, if you do have a Boomkin in the group on Horde, you need 14%. And if you're a Alliance Shaman, you only need 13% hit. Another common question that gets asked is, do you need to sync your weapons in Wrath of the Lich King? And the answer is, you don't really have to, but there are benefits of doing so. If it's something that is stopping you from playing your Shaman in Wrath, or it's convincing you to not do it, it's dissuading you, I wouldn't even worry about it. You can realistically play without a swing timer and do fantastic damage. You can top meters without it. But there are benefits if you are trying to min max. Namely, the internal cooldown of losing flurry stacks is still a thing. So, in other words, if your weapons are hitting within 0.5 seconds of each other, you are only losing one stack of flurry and not two. And also, there's some new tech in Wrath of the Lich King called Lightning Bolt Weaving, which I created a whole video explaining, but in a nutshell, it's multitasking for enhancement shamans. You are simultaneously casting and swinging your weapons at the exact same time using Maelstrom Weapon. And it's kind of fun if you are into that level of micro. And a link of that video will be in the description. So there are benefits to syncing, but you don't have to do it. And as always, thank you so much for the questions that you ask in Discord and stream. They really help me narrow my focus for the guides that I create. So thank you for that. And also, if you are looking for a comprehensive guide, not only for Prepatch, but all of Wrath of the Lich King, head over to my Discord. It is the unofficial Discord for Enhancement Shaman and Wrath, and it has everything that you need to know to own in Wrath of the Lich King on Enhancement Shaman. So we'd love to have you there. And one love, boys. Peace.